I'll let you have this one, Tom. Why can't we have the mentality
Me? Oh,
yeah, I know. Like a Madrid or a City, I'm sick to death of this mediocrity, Tom. Now, before you answer that, I'm going to come back with this one because I do think that there is a section of the fan base that over the past have accepted mediocrity, and I've been one who said that. I've never said that we should be like Real Madrid and City and stuff like that because everyone's different and Arsenal are different to those clubs. I understand what it's saying. I just think at the moment that's not the time to be bringing this question up, but that's just my opinion. But go on, Tom.
I think mediocrity would be finishing third in the Premier League, dropping to 8th and not sacking your manager. That's what I think mediocrity would be. And that's why I think if Manchester United don't get rid of Erik ten Hag, they're accepting that dropping from 3rd to 8th in the table, regardless of that FA Cup win, is acceptable. Which, if that was Arsenal, I don't think there is a justification for Arsenal finishing 2nd and then dropping to 8th the following season. I couldn't justify that. I certainly couldn't, because that's such a significant regression. Of course, there'd be context to look at why that happened, but I can't foresee even a significant injury issue at a club that saw you drop from 2nd to 8th in this current, climate. So Chelsea had horrific injuries and still managed to finish 6th in the table and still sack their manager. I don't necessarily agree with that decision to sack Pochettino, by the way, because I think if they want to build a project, you don't sack him after a year. Maresca, I think, is a good appointment for a club that will give a manager a lot of resources and a lot of control, but I don't think he'll get that at Chelsea, for example. But, back to Arsenal. Arsenal have only moved in one direction since Mikel Arteta has come into the club. They've only gone forwards. Every single year we've moved into a position where we are more competitive than the year before. And yes, for some fans, I assume like Oliver, to convince them he is going to have to win the Premier League or the Champions League to do that. I'd also like him to do better in the Cups, and I know me and Dan certainly agree on that. We'd like to see him do better in those Cup competitions, and this summer is certainly going to be about raising the floor of the club so that we have a better chance of competing across multiple competitions as well. But Arsenal have only, as I say, gone in one direction, being 2 points. If the difference between mediocrity, as what is defined as mediocrity, and whatever the opposite is 2 points off Manchester City, I don't know how that blur between 91 points and 94 points, which would, well, not even 93 points would have won us the league. Yeah, I don't. What was it? 89 to 91 points. It was the goals I was looking at. Scored 91 goals last season. So 89 points, 91. If we'd have got 91 points, of course, we would have won the league on goal difference. So if the difference is between mediocrity and whatever Oliver's calling for is 2 points, that's a crazy kind of
calling for ambition. That's what it's called.
Yeah, look, obviously the phrase we like on the channel to have our Arteta out bingo cards. We do like them. We get told a lot to raise our standards. That's a classic. I do love that. Got to raise them up, raise those fogging standards. Boys, you got to do it. But at the end of the day, you can't. There is not a single person that could justify getting rid of Arteta after the season that we've had. There isn't a single manager out there that you bring in instead of him. And it is going to take Arsenal to go backwards to start justifying that. To justify getting rid of him, Arsenal need to go backwards. Or the alternative to that is that, for me, and I don't think there's a person on this panel that wouldn't say that they wouldn't extend his contract. But I don't think equally you could vindicate giving him the next one if he doesn't deliver a Premier League or a Champions League. Because
Tom, the other thing is, which makes me laugh, is like all these fans, right? He's got to win a trophy, right? I get it. He's got to win a trophy. He's got to win a trophy, right? If he wins the FA Cup next season and comes 8th in the league, they'll all be saying, get rid of him.
Yeah, indeed. And to be honest, so would I.
Yeah, but he's won a trophy. It's not always
a massive regression if that happens.
It's huge. It's not justifiable to go from 2nd to 8th.
It's in the context of the thing, right? You know what I mean? Like we nearly won the league this season. I know, like, you win a trophy. We all want to win trophies and all that, like, But we won. I come out of the last FA Cup final was against Chelsea. Not obviously the one before was, in COVID. But come out of that game and fantastic day, fantastic night. Celebrating Aaron Ramsey's goal and doing all the songs in the pubs and all that. Like 3 days later, I'm thinking, we ain't in the Champions League this year. We're in the Europa League. You know what I mean? I wish I was in the Champions League again. I want to be challenging, It's great to win it, But I remember when we won it one year, we played Lincoln in the quarterfinals. You've got to have a little bit of luck and things like that. 38 games we've gone toe to toe with Man City, not 7 games, or 6 games is it in the FA Cup, and some of them against lower opposition. I get it that you want to win a trophy. I get all of that, but we are challenging for the league, which is something we haven't done for a very, very long while. And you know what? This season, for the first time, I didn't think we was going to win the league last season, guys. I didn't. But I walked into that stadium against Aston Villa thinking, we might win the league here. We might win the league. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But I listen, when fans go that he's got to win something, and I'm with you on that. I think if we won the FA Cup next season and come second, all right. If we won the FA Cup and come third, what would we be saying then? And we didn't really challenge for the title. Would we all be happy, or I don't know?
I think he's got a challenge for the title. But when you win a trophy, it's you're winning. You're lifting silverware, aren't you? So for example, I always get this question asked to me. Would you rather win an FA Cup and come 8th or challenge for the title?
Yeah,
why can't you challenge for the title and win an FA Cup?
Is the question. But would you have swapped our season for United?
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about, would you swap this season for the who had the better season? Listen, whenever someone does that, they've had a good season, right? But for me, why is it always asked the question, would you rather would you rather compete for the title and come second, or would you rather come 8th and win the FA Cup? Why can't you compete for the title and win the FA Cup? Why is that never an option?
That's what they want to do.
Do you know what I mean? That is what you want, man.
You can, and that's what we're trying to do. It doesn't mean that it's automatically going to happen. But when you ask, which is the better season, 8th place in an FA Cup or 2nd place and no trophies, A, there's got to be context to that. Where are you coming from to end up there? And B, the question I would ask is not who had the better season. Would you rather be a Manchester United supporter right now in the situation they're in right now, where you've just lifted a cup, you've had a horrendous season, your team's a shambles, you're past, and you're sacking your coach, or be where Arsenal are right now? If you're looking backwards constantly as to what you just lifted, and that's all you're looking at, and saying, okay, well, this was a better season, then fine. I can't do anything.
I think there's two different questions as well. I think there is.
I think they're more related though than people. They're more related than people think, because I don't look at each season as a one season thing. I look at, in one way I do, but in general, if we've just come second, we've competed, we've not lost a single game against the traditional top 6. We were there until the very last day. There's some questionable calls. I'm not going to blame the fact that we didn't win the league on that, but and you're dealing with a Manchester City that I won't even go into how they got to be the team that they are right now, because that's been gone over and gone over and gone over. I don't think you could see the lack of context that we are a team that not only has slightly improved from the from punching above our weight the season before, but we're headed towards a sustainable period at the top, similar to what Liverpool's kind of, been doing over the past 6 or 7 years. And we're there or thereabouts. And this summer we build on that and go better. But, I don't think it matters who had the better season. It matters where you.
I don't care about Man United. Why is all of this sudden like Man United have come up?
Because that's the comparison that we've just brought.
But I don't care.
I don't care about them.
When we won the FA Cup, how many years ago it was? We was going up and down the country, right? I was going up and down the country, losing 4-0 at Liverpool, losing 4-0 at Chelsea, losing 3-0 here, getting beat there, going here, going there. You know what I mean? It weren't fucking great, boys. It wasn't great. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, oh yeah, it's acceptable to come 10th or 8th or whatever and win the FA Cup. I remember when we won the FA Cup in Arteta's season. It weren't a great season. I didn't enjoy it one bit.
Pretty bad.
I enjoyed the last bit of it, but ultimately I didn't enjoy it. But now when I go Arsenal, every game, whether it be home or away, I think we've got a chance of winning games. I'm not going up to Liverpool with my tin hat on, hoping we might keep the score down to 3 or 4-0, and win an FA Cup at the end of it. If
Liverpool had
winning, I get about winning and everything like that. but like it can be brushed aside. Keep losing all that. If Arsenal win the league next season, right, which they might do, I will look back and go, that is because what's happened over the last couple of years.
Yep.
Right. And if that means not winning an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but I get to that main goal of winning of the Premier League, I'm going to take that. And that is what we are going for. And I do think that we're in a better position than Man United. And if Man United next season go on and win the league, right, I will turn around and go, do you know what? You've got to give them their credit. They've won the FA Cup, and it's got them parallel to whatever. Personally, I don't think it will, guys. You know what I mean? Like,
they'd love to be in our position, Lee. Man United fans would trade Man United's position with us in seconds. They would,
because I would have traded it 4 or 5 years ago, Tom, because I knew exactly what we was going through.
Exactly.
If Liverpool won the FA Cup this year instead of United, finished third, 7 points behind second, won the FA Cup, you could say that they would have had a better season than us because they competed for the title until the last month and won the FA Cup. That I could buy into, but you can't be you can't lose 4-0 to who was it that they lost to? Burnley, Brentford, like in the
was it Palace?
Yeah, 4-0 to Palace. You can't lose the games that they lost over the course of the season as embarrassingly as they lost them and claim that you had a good season in any way, shape, or form just because you happen to play well in 6 games or play well enough in 6 games to get you to Wembley and win a trophy.
Yeah, I think Jonathan in the chat box rated that point as well. Jonathan said fans hounded out Wenger despite winning those FA Cups. The amount of times that we said when Wenger won the FA Cup, like, don't sign that new deal. Go out on that high because we need to go forwards. You know,
in 2014, we needed a trophy. It didn't matter whether we finished 16th in the league and won the FA Cup in that situation.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the one that we won, to end the drought. I'm talking about
I know
against Chelsea. He should have gone at those points because we needed to go forwards because an FA Cup wasn't enough. And an FA Cup this season for Arsenal necessarily wouldn't have been enough either because we need to go and win that league. FA Cup,
I agree with you 100%.
An FA Cup is great. I don't want to denigrate it. The League Cup is something different. I find the League Cup in itself has been denigrated just for the context of that competition, for the sponsorships, for the reward of winning it, being in the Conference League. The fact it's a double leg semi-final, all this rubbish that teams basically turn something of a blind eye. City can win it and have won it consistently, not because they wildly care about it, because they've got the resources to be able to go through it and all the other competitions compared to other clubs around, So I look at Arsenal and I think, if not winning the League Cup means that we have a far, far better opportunity to go for our league title, not qualifying for the Champions League, I'm talking about finishing top 4, I'm talking about going for the title, going for the Champions League, then I am absolutely rather to gun for those things. And I'm hoping that this summer puts us in a position where we don't necessarily have to forego a cup competition to be able to be in a position to challenge on all fronts. Because we should now be, 5 years into this project, we should now be in a position where after this summer, the squad is not only in a place where it's competing for a title as it has done in the last 2 seasons, but it's also in a position where it's fighting for every single tournament that's possible. We should be in that position now.
No more excuses for not doing that. We've spent the money. We spent the money. We've brought in the players. We've gotten rid of the players. And at this point in time, we should absolutely be competing on all fronts. And I don't buy the fact that we didn't go for the FA Cup and that we're not able or wanting to compete on all fronts, as I'm seeing in the chat. We were, I think, more focused on the league this year.
Listen, our home form cost us in the FA Cup like it's cost us in the league, if we'd be really brutally honest about it. We should have beaten Liverpool that day, missed chances on the day, you know what I mean? It was just that. But I agree. Dan's right. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be, all right, we just go for the league and that's it. We've got to aim for everything. And that's why I think this transfer window is important, because it's got to be so that if we're going to challenge for the league and we're going to try and win cups as well. But at the end of the day, let me tell you now, when people say to me, raise your standards because you want trophy, raise your standards.
What do you have to do with whether we win a trophy or not?
It doesn't necessarily mean the best team wins the cup. Because if the best team wins the cup, Manchester City would have won it. The fact is, the matter is, you need a little bit of luck in those competitions. You need a little bit of everything to go your way. At the end of it, you can raise your standards. Raise your standards in the league, and that takes care of it. And hopefully, you can get a cup along the way as well. But when people say raise your standards, what for the FA Cup? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, did Manchester City were actually beaten by a team that finished 8th in the league. 8th in the league, you know what I mean? It's just one of those, you know what I mean?
Not to mention Coventry came this close.
And that's really away from winning that, weren't they? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
I have an announcement. If you're in a chat of a podcast, and I'm sorry, Dan, I don't mean to insult your loyal listeners, but if you're in the chat of a podcast and you feel that your personal standards for Arsenal Football Club mean anything, you need to have a look in the mirror. Like, seriously, people aren't going to like that comment, but whether you have the highest of standards or just don't care at all, doesn't matter. The same thing's going to happen. So, you know, don't waste so much energy. Maybe it's just because I'm 51 years old and you know, the second oldest person in this panel. Doesn't matter. Just watch it, enjoy it, root for it, want success. But you know what? You're no better than anybody else because you're angry that we didn't win a trophy this year. End up.
So, man, it's all opinions. We've all got different ones.
Also, please donate to Gooners versus
You know what I mean? Like, everybody's got different opinions. You know what I mean? And
we all want to get to
my standards are very, 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 very simple. Like, you know, when people say raise your standards, I want Arsenal to win the league. That's what I want. I want every season. I want Arsenal to win the league, right? But 20 teams in the Premier League, only one wins it. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be disappointed. But at the end of it, that's what I want. I loved Arsene Wenger, right? But at the end of the day, he couldn't deliver challenging for the title no more. That, for me, not good enough. Not good enough. He won FA Cups, not good enough. Because at the end of it, I want us to be winning the league. It's not an easy job to do, guys. It's not.